Hello, I'm Suzy Hershman, Head of Dispute Resolution at mydeposits. Today I'm going to talk about tenancy agreements and why they are so important. But first, a tenancy agreement is a binding contract between the tenant and the landlord. It sets out the legal terms and responsibilities with the conditions clearly and without room for misunderstanding. Although it's not a legal requirement to have a written document, tenancy agreements are important. They are the foundations of your tenancy and protect the legal rights of both parties. It sets everyone up for a good landlord-tenant relationship from the beginning, as everything is clear, and disputes are more likely to happen when the arrangement is informal and there's nothing in writing. While I'm not going to talk about all the points you should include in your tenancy agreement, I would like to mention the areas that can lead to discussions during or at the end of the tenancy. The first is repairs and maintenance. Both the landlord and the tenant have their own responsibilities to look after the property. The tenant has responsibility for maintaining the property. If it was in good condition or clean to a professional standard, that's exactly how they have to return it. They may also be responsible for looking after the garden. However, the landlord also has his own responsibilities for keeping the property in good and livable condition. Some of these rules are implied by law. So another point to mention is cleaning. A cleaning clause in a tenancy agreement should ultimately say that the tenant has to return the property clean to the same standard it was given to them in, and this should be recorded in a robust check-in report. Garden maintenance is another thing to mention in your tenancy agreements. If you have a garden and you want the tenant to maintain it, then you need to be clear about what they need to maintain. Most commonly will include low-growing shrubs, lawns, pathways, driveways, but nothing that is too high that you would expect a tenant to have to get on a ladder, for example. So that's where a landlord needs to manage their own expectation. Pets is another clause commonly seen in a tenancy agreement. Most tenancy agreements currently do not allow pets as a rule, although the government model tenancy agreement does allow pets by default. It's more common still to see special clause added to the end of a tenancy agreement where the landlord has permitted the tenant to have a pet and should at the very least specify the type of pet or the number of pets allowed. Smoking is very commonly disputed and often is seen by adjudicators. In the tenancy agreement, it will not permit smoking, but very often at mid-term inspections or at the end of the tenancy, there is evidence of smoking in the property. Again, your claim can only be for the damage that's caused by it or whatever it costs to get rid of it, but it's a valuable clause to have in a tenancy agreement because smoking can cause damage if it's excessive. A clause on regular property inspections is a really valuable clause for both parties, as things can be picked up at these visits and discussed at the time and advice given. So the most common one that we may see will be condensation, often through drying clothes on radiators, not ventilating the property properly. However, there are also structural issues that sometimes have been reported and are not being attended to. So conducting these property visits can really highlight any problems during the tenancy and prevent things getting much worse. I've already briefly mentioned individually negotiated clauses at the end of the tenancy agreement, for example relating to pets. Another would be redecorating a property. Any request from the tenant that's agreed by the landlord must be reasonable, clearly communicated and signed by the tenant. Otherwise, they could be seen as unfair and may be difficult to enforce. For more information on tenancy agreements, you can read our full guide below. If you are a self-managing agent and would like help drafting a tenancy agreement, speak to Landlord Action, who can draft an agreement in line with your specific requirements or check your draft for you. Agents who would like advice on tenancy agreements or access to dedicated legal expertise can contact HF Assist, the legal agent helpline.